Big injury news in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is going to miss the next 2 weeks with a quad strain, at least the next 2 weeks. And if it were to be exactly 2 weeks, that would be 4 games that she is going to miss at minimum.
And I have to say that I did notice in the Liberty game, Caitlin Clark's shots were all very short. So it was showing that she wasn't like getting off and she was having a difficult time making those threes, and a lot of explosiveness from those 3-point shots does come from your leg.
This is actually an injury that was separate from the quad tightness issue, as Caitlin Clark described it earlier in the preseason, that she dealt with before. So it's a little bit of interesting situation given that it was the same leg, but the team is saying it is actually a new injury.
It happened in a split second. One moment, Caitlin Clark was carrying the league. The next, she was on the floor, grabbing her leg, and everything changed. But now, this isn't just about an injury, because behind the scenes, medical concerns are being raised, questions are being asked, and the league is facing a problem it can't ignore anymore. Was this just bad luck? Or did the system fail its biggest star? Because what we're about to uncover could change how you see this entire season.
During a routine drive,
Clark took hard contact and went down. It didn't look normal. She stayed on the floor longer than usual. Trainers rushed in, and the arena went silent. Within hours, the Indiana Fever confirmed. Quad strain, out for at least 2 weeks. But here's where things start to get complicated, because this wasn't the first warning sign. Weeks before this moment, something fell off. Clark's shots were falling short. Her explosiveness wasn't the same. And during preseason, she had already dealt with quad tightness. Even Stephanie White later admitted they didn't immediately realize how serious it was. That raises a critical question. Was she already playing through pain? Because if she was, then this injury didn't start here. It was building from her very first game. Clark has faced intense physical defense, grabbing,
bumping,
hard screens, and fans started noticing something else. The whistles weren't coming. Night after night, contact that might be called for other stars was simply ignored. And now, after the injury, that conversation is exploding again. Is this just tough basketball? Or is there a dangerous inconsistency? Let's be honest. Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie. She's driving record-breaking viewership, sold-out arenas, massive media attention. The WNBA is experiencing a surge, and Clark is at the center of it. So when she goes down, it's not just a basketball problem, it's a business problem. Then came the reaction online. And it wasn't all support. While many fans were concerned, others crossed the line. Mocking posts, celebratory comments, even rival fan bases joined in, especially those tied to teams like the Chicago Sky and players like Angel Reese, where the rivalry has already been intense. This isn't just competition anymore. It's becoming something much more toxic. And through all of this, one thing stood out: silence. No major statement from the league. No strong stance from leadership. Even Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has remained relatively quiet publicly on the officiating concerns. That silence? It's raising even more questions. Because when your biggest star goes down, people expect leadership. Now, let's be clear. There are no confirmed reports of doctors publicly accusing the league. But sports medicine experts widely agree on one thing. Quad injuries don't just happen instantly. They often develop over time, especially under repeated stress and contact. Which brings us back to the bigger issue: workload, physicality, protection. If those aren't managed properly, injuries like this become more likely. This moment could define the season, because now the WNBA faces a critical choice. Do they adjust? Do they protect their stars? Do they address officiating consistency?
or
Do they let this continue? Because if this keeps happening, it won't just affect one player. It could impact the entire future of the league. Caitlin Clark will recover. That's not the question. The real question is, what will the league learn from this? Because this wasn't just an injury. It was a warning. And if it's ignored, the consequences could be even bigger next time. The injury to Caitlin Clark didn't just pause a season. It exposed a deeper tension building inside the WNBA, one that has been quietly growing ever since her historic arrival transformed the league into a global headline machine. Because from the very beginning of her rookie campaign with the Indiana Fever, Clark has not only carried the weight of expectations, but also the physical burden of being the most targeted player on the court, facing relentless defensive pressure night after night that blurred the line between competitive intensity and unchecked physicality. And while her rivalry with Angel Reese, dating back to their unforgettable clash in the 2023 NCAA championship, has fueled fan engagement and media narratives, it has also amplified scrutiny around how differently players are treated both on and off the court, especially as Clark's rapid rise brought unprecedented TV ratings, sold-out arenas, and sponsorship deals that reshaped the league's business model almost overnight, making her not just a player but the central figure in the WNBA's modern growth story, which is why her recent quad injury has triggered such intense debate. Because when you look closely at the timeline, the warning signs were there for weeks: reduced explosiveness, short-range shooting struggles, visible discomfort on the bench, and even earlier reports of quad tightness during preseason, suggesting that this was not a sudden breakdown but a gradual wear-and-tear situation that reached its tipping point during a high-contact play. And although the official diagnosis labeled it a short-term injury, the broader conversation has shifted toward whether the league, its officiating standards, and even team-level decisions did enough to protect a player under extraordinary physical and commercial pressure, especially as fans began compiling clips of missed foul calls, inconsistent officiating, and repeated hard contact that seemed to go unpunished compared to how other established stars are treated, creating a perception, fair or not, of a double standard that has now become impossible to ignore. And the reaction off the court only intensified the situation, as social media turned into a battleground of support and criticism, with some fans expressing genuine concern while others, particularly from rival circles, engaged in toxic celebrations that revealed a deeper cultural divide within the fanbase, further complicating the narrative and putting additional pressure on league leadership, including Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, whose relative silence during the peak of the controversy has itself become a talking point, raising questions about how the WNBA plans to balance physical competition, player safety, and the commercial responsibilities that come with having a generational star at the center of its growth. Because beyond the headlines and debates, the reality is that Clark's presence has fundamentally altered the league's trajectory, driving record-breaking attendance, elevating media coverage, and attracting new audiences at a scale rarely seen before, which makes her injury not just a medical issue but a defining moment for the entire organization, forcing stakeholders to confront difficult questions about sustainability, fairness, and long-term strategy. And as the league looks ahead to upcoming matchups, national broadcasts, and continued expansion of its audience, all eyes will remain on how this situation is handled, because the decisions made now, whether in officiating adjustments, player protection policies, or public communication, could shape the future of the WNBA for years to come, turning this single injury into a pivotal chapter in the league's evolution rather than just a temporary setback in one player's remarkable career.